Welcome to TBS. Today, we're going to do something different. It's late at night, and I wanted to talk about a very odd topic, I guess you could say. It's about suicide. Now, I'm not talking about when someone does it alone. I'm talking about when it's a pact. And in South Carolina, there was, in 76, there were 2 people found dead, shot in the head, the chest, and the neck. Now, they've never been identified. They each had on very distinctive jewelry and distinctive clothing, distinctive dental work, probably from Canada. Their trail was easy to follow from Florida to where they were found. They even met the driver of the truck that gave them a ride, and they found the gun that killed them. And yet, no matter what's been corroborated, nothing has been confirmed. And I have my own idea about why this is. I think it's because when things happen that are out of the ordinary, people just don't think of it, and it seems outlandish and like it would never make any sense. But I think that we need to figure this out, because these 2 people have been on a lot of people's minds for many years, 40 years or so. It doesn't matter really what happens to someone's body when they're gone, probably, but their bodies have been used for science, which is good. But who knows what they would have said about it, and I kind of want to know a little more about them and see what happens here. All cups. Okay, so these 2 didn't start out their journey together. The man was older than the girl. You could call him a man, maybe late 20s. He had gotten in a fight with his family about what he wanted to do, and so he decided to run off on his own and find his own way in the world. Many people do this. It was the 70s and it was time for hitchhiking, but he probably had some sort of vehicle that he got in the US, like rented it or bought it, probably a van or something like that, so that he could travel around. And he found a girl, maybe in Arizona or Idaho, based on her jewelry and some receipts they had from a certain gas station. They met each other, they really clicked, they had a lot in common, they talked a lot, they saw each other as people they could trust. And I don't know how sexual it was, but it was very, very close. And these 2 people were not normal people. They were highly intelligent, and in some words, bizarre. They may have chosen a goth-like style now or something close to that. She had run away from home, but it was a thing where, for him, he had been wanted a lot, but now he wasn't. And for her, it was more like they could take her or leave her. His family had more money than her family. As they were making their way across the U.S., traveling and maybe losing their car or running out of whatever, maybe it broke down, they ran out of money for gas, who knows, but they were going on their path and they found something interesting. They found that no matter where they went, everything was always the same, and that death and life were everywhere in all different ways, but that underneath it all, everything was the same. And they both felt like they were completely free in life, and they didn't have any kind of purpose. But the fatalistic nature of life was starting to get to them. For the man, starting over had meant really not as much as he thought, and what he wanted from life, being a loving person, a romantic person, being a smart person, maybe helping and teaching others, hadn't really panned out like he thought. Nothing was fulfilling him, and he needed more. The girl felt the same. She had been verbally abused by her mom and was sick of dealing with things that were difficult. She wanted to have an easier lifestyle and a place where she belonged, where people would accept her. She had found this man with whom she was accepted, and intuitively she felt really close to him. But the problem was, she didn't really, she didn't fall in love. And that's what she had kind of been looking for. Instead, she felt more like she had found the truth, which was that everything ends, everything dies. And when they found themselves up against this universal truth, he decided that maybe it was better for him to tell all that he knew to this girl and help her about life and see if she could do better than he did. So while they were traveling, he told her everything he knew, and she told him everything she knew about life and what had happened to her, and they still didn't reach an answer. So it just seemed like the passion of their life and like was kind of gone, so they wanted to go see some exciting things, and they just found things they wanted to do, like go to a car race and things like that. And they went and partied with people. They went in a bar, hung out with people. And, you know, he was at his highest and lowest in those places. And she was along for the ride and happy to be so, but felt empty anyway. So they got to the Carolinas and they met a trucker who needed money and was down on his luck. They had some money left, and they had talked to this guy for a while too, and this man had talked about how the love of his life had left him, and he was doing pretty badly, that he wanted to do better in life but didn't really know how, and that if he could just get a little bit more money, he could start out on a better path. Yeah. So the man and the woman and the girl, they were talking before they met this guy, this trucker guy. And they started talking to him about, we kind of want to do a suicide pact. We could pay you to do that. We could pay you to get a gun and then help us do this. And at first, of course, he was like, no way, that's just horrible. But the more they talked to him about why, the more he kind of gave in, and they gave him some money, and he went to go find a gun to buy, a stolen one or something, one that was hot, I guess you could say, that he didn't need to sign a paper for or anything. And he knew about that from his brother or his friends. He knew about someone that would have a gun, or he knew of a gun already. So he went and got it, and he told the kids, the people, the couple, that he would do it. And he was afraid, but that he knew that this was important to them, and he really needed money. I'd say it was like something like $650 is what they gave him. I don't know what that would equal today. In 76 it was around that much, and he had more hope for the future now. Actually, he was a bit of I don't know how to explain, but he wasn't very smart, because he had a slight learning disability, and it made his logic skills a little bit, sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. But he said, well, okay, let's do this. So they went to a place that truckers go to, where he knew they would be secluded off from the road. And he realized the man had another gun. And he was like really freaked out. Why did you have that? What's going on here? He said, well, we want to shoot each other, and then to make sure we're dead, we want you to shoot us both in the throat. And you can do whatever you want with the guns, but we just want to make sure that we shoot each other at the same time, so that things just are equal. We don't want to put all the brunt and all the responsibility on you. And he felt pretty good about this, and so they, the girl and the boy, faced each other, and they held the pistols out at each other, and they were both supposed to shoot each other in the chest, and they both did at the same time, and they both fell into the dead man's fall, I think it's called, where the legs are twisted, where the ankles are crossed when you fall. And so they were both facing away from each other, but you could tell they were facing before that. And so he shot them in the neck and maybe the head, so that they would both be dead, to make sure. And I don't know, I can't tell if he took, so like everything was complete with them, but I don't know if he took both guns or if he disposed of one of them because he didn't know where they got it. I think he threw it in some water or something. And when the cops came and got him, over time, they gave him a test, a lie detector test, and he did pretty good except for the part about the gun. And he gave them 2 lies that kind of worked out, but he never told him what really happened with the guns. That he got rid of the one that belonged to the man and that he had bought that one that he kept. I guess they confiscated it, but he didn't have that good of a life after that anyway. He always kept failing, and he died in a way that was a little bit depressing. Some people would say that he got the karma got to him, but I think no matter if he would have helped those kids or not do what they wanted to do, his life still would have ended poorly, because he had nothing and no one to help him, and he was living on his own wits and means. And so, because that's such an odd thing for people to do, and it's very uncommon, and it has another person in it, which adds another trefoil of oddness, I think that's why people don't see that that's what really happened. There was no murderer going around loose or serial killer going around to get them. They weren't hitchhikers, you know. And the reason why the trucker didn't steal anything off their bodies is because he had the money already. He didn't need their jewelry or anything. He just wanted to get out of there. He didn't want to be connected to the crime. I would like to say that their willpower was very strong, but they also probably both had depression, and if they were alive now, they would be taking medicine. Hopefully wherever they are now, they're happy. Some people say to die young is a good death. So we could think of it that way. But I really just think of them as tragic figures that have caused a conundrum. And it's a little bit, it's farcical, I guess you could say, but it's also interesting. And it's sad that so much money and time has been spent on trying to find out who they are, and no one's come forward to get them. But both of their families were not into finding them. And probably most of their families are dead that knew about them back then, that knew who they actually were as people. Okay, now I want to ask, is there anything else we need to know? I don't know their names. Jacques was supposedly the man's name that he gave to the trucker and some other people. And they just called the girl Jane because they're both does. Yeah, so pretty much what happened was just a passion that they had to feel a certain way, and the willpower they had to try to get that. It kind of collided with reality, and instead of going the way most people do, which is continuing on even though it isn't as fun, as exciting as it used to be, or they didn't find what they really wanted. These two decided to nip it in the bud and just go on and skip out of this life. The way that they ended their life, they thought was about truth. But it's kind of a useful thing to do a suicide pact. It's more immature, I guess you could say. No matter what the intelligence level is of someone who kills themselves, there has to be a reckless willpower that comes along with youth. That usually is the way that it gets done. And having so much of the burden of their families too, like weighing on them, and probably needing medicine, they buckled under the pressure, but they also felt kind of happy that they were doing something no one else really does. I hope they felt rewarded after they were done. It seemed like they probably died immediately. And lives are precious, but there's something to be said about there's so many of us. There's so many humans that have lived before and are going to live after. And what's two more lives in the end, you know? But they never got to have love. They never got to have a family. They never got to become grandparents. And those are all things that are worth something. So these two, this is just my own saying this, but I think that the girl is either from Idaho or a very Midwestern state, or like Arkansas, maybe Mississippi or Georgia, but probably like Arkansas or something like that. She really, she was really stifled and just wanted to have a different life. They both saw the world as a fatalistic type thing. Let's hope that what they wanted they got, and that they made the better choice for themselves. I don't know if people can judge people that do that, if it's right or wrong. And we don't know what happens to people that do that, if it's different than others. Most religions condemn it because it's seen as taking God's role in someone's life and doing it for yourself. But these people thought it was the right thing. So no matter what happened to them, they're where they are now, and they're gone from here. And it seems like no one cared enough to find out where they went. So they chose not to make new bonds, new families. They chose to end it. Of course, going on that journey is odd, and finding temperance when you're young is hard to do. So this is the reading for today. I know it was a little bit different, and I assume that saying the word suicide, suicide pact, etc. are not allowed on YouTube, but I'll just put it up anyway and see what happens. Have a good night, and if anyone is feeling odd about their life, there's obviously, you can go online and find the number to call, but also there's medicine, which actually works and would probably have helped these people immensely.